Hello, beautiful people. So I'm back with Wednesday's edition, day 3 of Earth University. So before I get started with today's lesson, I just wanted to quickly provide an update on what I have going on with my written post and presenting the artwork that I've worked on over the last couple of years. Just like what I'm doing here with the lessons of weaving that spider web where everything connects. Doing the same thing simultaneously with my stories and the songs and the artwork to show how everything's intertwined. So this morning, or really this around noon, I posted a painting called The Compass, and then a story that went along with that, and then provided a song by Incubus called The Warmth that has a tie-in to The Compass, and then finally a painting I did called The Light in the Darkness, which kind of wraps up that whole entire story. So it's like one story kind of within 3 different posts. But if you haven't been reading my stuff on there and you're interested in the stuff I talk about, it might be worthwhile to check out. So wanted to start there. And then before I jump into Carl Jung, which is a lot of material to go over with him, so I'm going to try to keep it quick in the beginning and jump right into him. But I heard I don't know why I was thinking about the term free spirit. For so long, that's just a term that you would hear to somebody who, like the hippies and things like that. But I never was one, I realized. I'd always been a slave to this world. Not until I finally went inward and found myself did I actually think about it and think like free spirit, that we use that tend to use it as with a negative connotation to it. But it's really, if you think about it, meaning that your spirit is trapped, your soul is trying to get out, and people who are living that way we view negatively. I think that has to change. But anyway, I have 2 stories relating to my personal life and my family. I'll start with one I had with my mom this morning. She was telling me about seeing like a 4-year-old golden retriever adoption, and I always had dogs growing up, and my parents just lost a dog not too long ago. My mom's always sworn she was like done with dogs, but she was saying how it was pulling at her heartstrings, but she doesn't. That dog like doesn't get along with cats, so she ended up it not being an issue. But she said she doesn't want to get a dog because she doesn't want to die before the dog does. I said, there is another way to look at it, that you should, if you want to get the dog, get the dog. That dog could bring you happiness and joy, keep you alive. That's that thinking, and talk about manifesting and how we create our own reality. You can't think things like that. You have to, if you want to get a dog and believe that it's going to be a great life with you and the dog. So just made me realize a little bit about how, like, nothing over the top. It's not like it was malicious growing up. It just, that mindset was conditioned into me. So it's taken a lot of work for me to realize those things and to change my way of thinking, because that's how everybody in my family thinks. It's always the worst of everything, and now I see the best in everything. So it can be done. You just have to be able to recognize it and then put the work in to change it. But switching from my mom to my daughter, last time I was in Florida, I took her to Target to go shopping and get some things. And when we were walking in the parking lot, there was a bunch of litter and trash everywhere. She got very agitated and was like, "Dad, why are people like this?" I was like, "I don't know, Rye. That's a good question." I said, "I think people just don't think. They just do it. And they don't have respect for the world we live in or the planet. They are self-centered, really. If you're somebody who just doesn't think twice to throw trash on the ground, you're not really considering other people or this planet." So on Monday, I told Riley that I had started teaching, that I had become a teacher, and she was like so happy and proud and couldn't wait to tell her friend. So yesterday, it cracks me up. Like, we usually do math and everything, like work on our addition and subtraction when we're on FaceTime. And she was like, "Did you teach subtraction today?" Not understanding, why I do these videos, what I'm trying to teach. So I was like, "No, we don't. It's not really that type of class." And so she started asking questions, and she was like, "Well, who's in your class?" And I was like, "I don't know who watches." And she kept asking more questions. She was like, "Well, what do you teach about?" And I was like, "Really everything. It's just a class about life and the right way to live." And she was like, basically, I was like, "How do I explain it to you? You know the people who litter when we went to Target and you were very mad about it?" I was like, "Those are the people who I hope start watching my lessons and start to understand that there is more going on, and there's consequences, and it's not just your personal dumping ground. Like, we need to be more mindful of what we're doing." But anyway, she's very curious and asked a lot of questions. And she was like, "Will you teach me?" I was like, "Of course." I said, "Anything you want to ask me, just always ask." So I tell that story because yesterday we ended with Isis, who was the Egyptian goddess. I said she was married to Osiris, and the myth goes that she brought him back from the dead, that she went into the underworld and brought him back from the dead. And I theorized that since she's this magical healer, And she's known for the subconscious mind, connecting the dots, weaving the web, said, could that possibly be a metaphor for these being real people? And her basically, not literal death, but he was dead inside, like he was not operating from his true self. So before I continue, I actually switched locations today. I was getting a little bit too comfortable at the same spot. Part of evolving is switching it up and getting out of your comfort zone and doing things different. So I'm at a bench right by the water today. The wind just picked up. That's why anyway, yeah, so I theorized about, it makes a lot of sense to me based on what she's known for: healing the subconscious mind, magic, and the underworld being a easy reference to the shadow self, you know, the shadow side, the darkness within us. Maybe she didn't literally go to a location, to a place that is the underworld. Maybe they are talking about ourselves. And I asked that question, is that possible? So I just put the theory out there. And as you'll learn, I've talked about it before, if you ask the questions and you want to know answers, they'll be provided to you. I didn't have to go looking. I wasn't really focused on it, like getting an answer to it. I just threw it out there. But right before I came to do this video, I learned something, and yeah, that was exactly what they were talking about. So the story goes that Osiris was dismembered. So in this day and age, if you said somebody's dismembered, we would think chopped up into pieces, right? Like Jeffrey Dahmer, serial killer, chop them up, put them in a freezer. But what they're talking about is breaking down all the different aspects of self, dismembering your fake persona and having to basically build that back up, okay? Which Isis is his wife and has all these qualities that are associated with healing and the subconscious mind. She was the one who guided him and led him and helped him through his journey of getting dismembered to break himself down. And then, wait for this, I thought this was pretty cool when I heard it. Remembering. What does it mean to remember? Where does that word come from? So, remembering who he really was. Finding his true self, the soul that was trapped within him. So, all the different parts of self getting put back together, or you could say all the different members of the self being put back together, remembering. I've been going through my own remembering who I am. So I can now answer Riley's question of who I'm supposed to teach. So I am definitely an ancient soul who's done this many a times before. There's a lot of new souls that are experiencing this for, I guess, some the first time, some they're on however many reincarnations. I don't really know, but I've began remembering a lot of things that I forgot because I was a prisoner spirit. Not until I became free was I able to truly remember who I am. So I wanted to tell that before diving into Carl Jung, which, like I promised, will be a direct thread from where we just left off. So, I mean, there's a million different, I could talk about Carl Jung for days, but there's a few specific parts of his work that I really wanted to focus on today. So he was born in Switzerland, so he's a Swiss psychologist. Born 1875, died 1961. So he's the founder of analytical psychology. So I guess he was in his mid-20s or so when he met Sigmund Freud, who at the time was pretty much the guy. He was, I'm trying to think of an equivalent, it doesn't really matter. You guys all know who Sigmund Freud is. But they worked together for about a decade, I think. Like I said, I encourage people to do their own research on this. Like, I'm not going to focus on getting every detail like exactly accurate, especially if it doesn't really matter in telling the story and getting to the point. But I do encourage people to do research themselves. But I think for like a decade they were working together, and Freud had some, I think a lot of people know he was like pretty much addicted to cocaine at one point and did a lot with analyzing dreams, and his ideas tended to be, I don't know, a little extreme on, but at the time, I guess they were taken pretty much as like, this is the guy, this is what people believed. So Carl Jung disagreed with Freud on a few things, and I guess we were like having a push-pull. So Jung decided to go his own way in like 1912, and when that happened, basically everybody turned their back on Carl Jung and sided with Freud, and Carl Jung's like whole life got, I guess, the veil dropped for him, where he realized that nobody was actually loyal. His friends would backstab him. I think there's only like 2 people who had his back in like the whole scientific community. So that really like rocked his world, and he was on, I think, like the verge of suicide and went into isolation, which is when he began documenting his process in basically trying to better himself and to understand how the human psyche actually works. So he documents all this stuff in the Red Book, which I never have actually read myself, but I have a pretty good grasp of his concepts and ideas and have experienced it myself. So I don't feel the need to read every word of it, but we'll find that a lot of the things that he discovered and a lot of the things that every person who goes through this process discovers, it's always the same. It's always the same thing, the same process. Doesn't matter where in the world you're located. It's the same. We're all connected. It's all the same general thoughts going on in there, which he refers to as the collective unconscious. So the collective unconscious is basically like, think of your iCloud for your personal cell phone. Now think of it if there was an iCloud for every one of our phones together up there at the same time, all commingled together. Now, there's a lot of darkness and generational trauma and things that are up there, like the mentality, the way of thinking is shifted to the negative, to the bad side of things right now. And this isn't Carl Jung talking. This is my own example of how I understand the collective unconscious. So not until we start to each individually break down and heal these aspects that are stored up in the collective unconscious, the more people change those thoughts themselves, the entire collective unconscious will begin to shift to a more positive, better, supportive place with better, supportive ideas and beliefs and thoughts. That's the simplest way that I can explain what the collective unconscious is. So you can say that Carl Jung, since he went through the process and understands this unconscious, the collective unconscious, so the unconscious mind versus the conscious mind, you could refer to him as a bridge, helping people get from their conscious mind to their unconscious mind and back, which is the goal. So the goal is to make the unconscious conscious, like to be able to make decisions consciously that are in line with your unconscious. That's self-individualization. It's the end goal, like realizing your full self, becoming whole. So you can refer to him as a bridge, and you can refer to him as a healer, because, you know, like Isis, he's helping people to heal from this stuff. So how he, let's recap yesterday real quick before I get more in depth on him. So once again, I talked about healing, the bridge. basically restoring balance to the self. And we talked about the divine masculine, that was more action, logic, structure based, and then divine feminine, intuition, creating, nurturing, with the ultimate goal being balance and wellness. So Carl Jung's process of finding your authentic self starts with the persona, which I talked about with Osiris, like that fake, it's the ego-driven fake character or role we play on a regular basis. It's the mask we put on. It's our coping mechanisms to deal with certain situations that make us uncomfortable. Like, what are the things we do to survive this reality? Which isn't, on a side note, which isn't the goal of this life, is to survive. We're supposed to thrive. So we need to figure out how to be our true selves in order to thrive. Otherwise, there'll always be that sense that we are just, what's the point? We're just surviving here, none of it matters. So personas is what we, at the beginning, that's what he's talking about. And then it starts with the shadow side. You have to go explore your shadows. You got to go into the darkness of your own psyche and face the demons, face the less than desirable parts about you that is the things that most people are running from. They're the things that everybody's afraid of. They see it in other people, but it's hard to admit that we hold those same things within us. But like I said, it's a collective unconsciousness. Everybody is connected. So if it exists in the world, it exists within us. Facing it and being comfortable with it is a necessity. You got to learn how to hone it in and control it, those elements of you. Otherwise, they will run you and control you. So, it goes way, way deeper than that, but I think that you get the point that I'm making, is that it's there's dark things within us. If you want to just say that we have an angel and a devil on our shoulder, we're dealing with silencing the devil, I guess you can say. So then he talks about you have to deal with the anima or animus, which is basically the masculine and feminine aspects that each of us possess within us. Sounds familiar, right? Same thing as divine masculine, divine feminine. And he actually almost describes exactly the divine masculine and divine feminine as I described them yesterday. But he actually takes it a step further, describing it as the anima is the soul or female principle in men. Emotions, empathy, intuition, capacity for connection. So more qualities we would typically associate with more women, but we all possess them. So if you're like a really macho guy who can't express his emotions, basically what he's saying is you have to learn. Part of your process would be to first, he would dismember you, and then these are members of you, parts of you. They're within you. You have to become familiar with them, and then remembering is putting it all back together. So soul or female principle in men is the anima, and then he has spirit or masculine principle in women, which is logic, reason, assertiveness, drive for external achievements. So like I said, we all possess all of those qualities. They're in the collective unconscious. We might be dominated more by one side or the other. Doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman, but for everybody, it's about breaking down the persona, fighting your shadows, addressing your shadows, learning to control them, then taking all of these different members of yourself, becoming familiar with them, and building back up into your authentic, true self. That's basically exactly what I had talked about yesterday, looking at it from more of a mythological, spiritual side of the equation. And this is a respected psychologist who is looking at it much more analytically. He is the father of analytical psychology, well respected, saying the same exact thing. So, and he, this isn't a guy who didn't go through it himself. Like a lot of the figures that I'll talk about, they become qualified because they did the work, and you can't fake it. Like, he spent years journaling and observing for the Red Book. That didn't get released until 2009, I believe. So almost 100 years. It just makes you wonder. I don't know the story. I didn't even go look for it. Maybe it'll come to me if I pose the question, like, what exactly happened with his work about this stuff that it took 100 years to come out. Like, this is extremely valuable, helpful information to try to help people discover who they truly are. So obviously, I'm trying to break down the illusion of what all this is and what's truly going on. My conclusion would be there's a lot of people who didn't want his work on this subject to come out, because it's not like woo-hoo spirituality, fake mythology nonsense, but it's actually well researched by a respected psychologist. So for anybody who is stuck in their masculine side of thinking, they would easily dismiss anything that's spiritual or supernatural, let's say. But if they're very systematic and logical and analytical, Carl Jung all of a sudden has much more influence over these people. Yet it takes 100 years for his work on this subject to be published. Like I said, I don't know if there is I just don't believe. I could go try to find the story that is told of why this happened. I'm not interested in that story. I'm sure there's some crazy thing that happened that prevented it, totally innocent. But I'm talking like, what's the true story behind it? Like, I can speak from experience. I have information that people don't want me talking about. So yeah, it's just like, you're starting to see it, that throughout time, throughout history, all these people, different belief systems, different approaches, whether religious or not, completely, Carl Jung, not religious, not spiritual, not anything. This is science for all you science lovers. Still saying the exact same thing, that you can't allow yourself to comprehend because you don't like that I say divine messages or something like that. You're going to completely dismiss everything I say because the minimum amount of your brain that you're using, you're still limiting that by being stuck on the one side that thinks like everything has to make sense. Like, you think it makes sense. None of it actually does in the long run. Like, it's just our attempt to make it to make sense. Like, there's so many things that we just accept as fact because somebody that we perceive to be smarter than us told us that it was. I don't care if you're smarter than me or not. I care about, are you healed or not? What's your intention behind making us want to believe this thing? That's the most important thing we need to be asking. Because if you're not healed and you're letting your shadow side, your shadow elements, and your masculine side of the mind make all of the decisions for you and how you live your life, you're basically easily corruptible and are probably hiding a lot of things in your closet. It's very, like, people are probably taken aback by me being able to make that claim. But you'll see when my story unfolds and the truth, and then when not only my story unfolds, but when I then take it further and actually start exposing all of the stuff that's going on, you won't feel like that's a crazy statement for me to make. I've yet to come across anybody in my life that I know of right now. There's one person I have in mind, but everybody else seemingly can be easily convinced to go against me with little information, little facts to do so. People will just believe something about somebody who they don't know or have never done anything to them based on gossip and rumors and little to no real information. So if you think if we're that easily fooled and tricked, like, what they know that, like, why would they not use that to their advantage? We got to put it in context. Remember that these are people who are dying for power and influence. Why do you think that is? You think they just want to be famous? Or you think when you have power and influence, that gives you control over people? So you can easily control people when you have information that they don't, and use that information against them to manipulate and lie and cheat. And apparently everybody's striving for the same thing, to be one of those people who get into power. So somebody comes and presents them an opportunity, pay them money, or to join a group that's powerful. They don't even think twice. It's just like nobody actually sits and thinks, which is the big picture here of all of this stuff, is to get back to independent thinking, asking questions and thought. Not with a group of people who are going to sway your opinion and you just believe it because you don't know what their intention or motivation behind their answer is. That's the truth. It doesn't matter how you're related to these people, who they are to you. You don't know what is going on, and they don't even know sometimes what's going on, because they're unhealed and they aren't tapped in to the unconscious, to what's truly motivating them, why they are doing the things that they do. I've gotten to the point now, having to deal with all these people and doing the research. I said yesterday that ISIS was like a human lie detector, and Carl Jung, obviously, after doing it, can see that in people. It's like a superpower that you start to gain. When you start to see it in everybody and can address it in yourself, you protect yourself. You're protecting yourself from potential harm. Like, your soul is trying to tell us you're in danger and things like that. Like, not until we get fully healed can we start to see that stuff way easier. Like, there's still going to be people who are diabolical and will come in and use you at the time where you could really use somebody, say all the right things, use all of the things against you that that they know you're vulnerable to. Like I said, these people are doing that to us. So doing the work on yourself so that you can at least fight back, to me, is an easy decision. So let's just go back to Carl Jung and his process of, becoming authentic and finding the true self, becoming whole, restoring balance, like we talked about yesterday. So one of them is self-awareness and acceptance. That's basically self-love. And in Team Up for Hope, one of the big things is awareness, education awareness. We're doing the education right now. The awareness it starts with self-awareness, but when you become self-aware and you are confident that your assessment of yourself is the right one, you can start to become aware of the people who are telling you otherwise. I knew my entire life how capable and smart I was, and that I could do anything that I wanted. I've spent a lifetime somehow getting surrounded by people, and it was all positive for me. It was all lessons that trained me to become more successful and powerful than I ever dreamed. But the idea is that, like, I was always in a conflict, in a struggle to try to show those people. And they knew that. So they did everything in their power to shake my confidence and to basically push me off my high horse that they think that I'm now riding on. Not until I came to the realization that, like, oh no, this was never a made up thing in my head. Every time I fly a little bit too high, it's like duck hunt, you know, like somebody shooting a rifle up trying to have me drop from the sky. And some of them don't even know that they're doing it because they're that unhealed, and it's generational trauma that the entire family is codependent. They all, you know, like, you succeeding and going and doing things with your life makes them feel bad because they didn't do it in their own. Like, that's not a conscious choice to, like, shoot the gun. But the damage from the bullet is still the same. It's this subconscious pull that they have that, you know, to hold their family member or child down and repeat the same cycle that has been occurring through generations of the family. That happened, that's all around us. You see examples of this. People who don't know, they don't remember who they are. So, like Carl Jung, like I said, I like to use the reference to the bridge. I can be a bridge into the collective unconscious, into the what's really supposed to be steering the ship. I know how to get there. I know how to get you back as your true self. And I know what to do when the entire illusion, the veil is lifted and we actually see the way things really have been our entire lives. I'm the bridge to help pick up the pieces. It's gonna happen. I mentioned, I always like to connect the threads. I posted the song The Warmth by Incubus. That song is on the album Make Yourself. I can't make anybody do anything. This is one of those things that you are going to have to make yourself do. There's no shortcuts. It's not a requirement to do it. But the things I'm saying are all true. There's examples of my beliefs that have been shared over from the beginning of history as we know it. There have been figures like myself who've experienced it and are trying to not keep the information for themselves, but use it for the greater good. Because we'll find out the greater good is not in their vocabulary. That's not something that they consider. It's for their good. So then there's other aspects. It's integration. So in integrating the various parts of the psyche, including ego, shadow, anima, animus, into unified whole to create balance. So yeah, same thing we talked about yesterday. Purpose and meaning. As part of the process, individuals may discover their life's purpose and meaning. Ding, ding, ding. Why do you think I'm sitting here doing this? There's a purpose. There's meaning to your life as well, that if you do this process, it'll become clear. I can help you start to decipher and learn the language of the universe that you would then reemerge or remember who you are and reemerge into, like a new world. There is always signs. There is always a guide to help you. You have to do the actual hard work by yourself. But there's plenty of factors or elements or entities that are along for the ride with you, who want to see you succeed. So it's just a matter of if you want to make yourself do it or not. Like, we love overcomplicating things in this world, in the 3D world that we live. It's not any more complicated than that. It's just a matter of, do you want to make yourself do it? Or are you going to give every excuse why you don't want to? Which is fine. It's free will. We have that right. But if you're not happy with the state of the world, I'm giving you the solution of how we change it. So you then can't say anything. Like, your opinion at that point ceases to matter to me. If you're not willing to do the work for yourself, why would I take your opinion? Why would I follow you? Why would I believe anything that you're trying to sell me? Because I understand it, and I don't think you're then qualified to be leading people, which gets back to Plato and Isis with the philosopher kings, or the university that Plato had, like, teaching this very stuff so that the leaders can actually leave with our best interests as the driving force, not their own self-interest. So, like, all of the analysts and talking heads who talk about our leaders, you need to heal too if you want the right to do your job. Otherwise, it's pretty simple to me that your opinion or your allegiance can be easily swayed if you have something to gain from it. Like that is... So I said, I'm an ancient soul. I've done this a lot of times. So even when I was fighting, there is a deep remembering, since I've done it so many times. Like I wasn't, even at my worst, I wasn't able to be corrupted. But I'm rare in that case. Like, if you haven't done this enough, you don't know how it works. You think none of it matters. But that's what I'm here for, to tell you that it does. So, here's something that, talking about guides and the universal language. So Carl Jung coined the phrase synchronicity. So he defined it as meaningful coincidences where events appear to be connected but not causally related. So it's just like the craziest coincidence, somebody might say, right? So he believed that they're not just chance occurrences, but rather reflect a deeper underlying meaning and could provide insights into personal growth and understanding. So you got to remember that Carl Jung wasn't a spiritualist. He wasn't religious. Like, he was trying to be as analytical and mainstream as possible. But what he's describing is basically like signs from the universe, or you could say the universal language, or divine intervention. It's the stuff that is happening that I never actually even noticed until you become aware. But once you become aware, it happened with the spiders yesterday. It had been a couple days that they were trying to get me that message. And I look over and there's a big web right next to me. Like, that's basically the equivalent of the universe screaming at me, like, pay attention, wake up, we're trying to tell you something, to help me. Like, they want to help me succeed. They said, weave, like, you need to weave a web. You gotta, like, tie one thing to the next together. Which is all I needed. I was like, oh, okay, I get it. Once I actually, like, I had to stop, take a breath, and say, like, what could spiders mean? Not just, oh, that's a spider, and, not give it any more thought. Now, there's certain things that are happening that they're not messages. That's part of the process, is trying to figure out, like, the things that are recurring, or the strange things that what you respond to then gets used. If you are very responsive to one form of receiving a message, you'll get more of those types of messages. Like, it's part of the test that the universe is giving us to see, what do we respond to? How can we help them? It's all help. So I call it the higher self, but I mean, you can really call it whatever you want. Carl Jung didn't have any spiritual name for it, like, but he just called it a synchronicity. Like, he recognized it, though. That's the point. Even if he didn't put a spiritual or a bigger perspective spin on it, he kept it very clinical. It was still a term that basically means when you start paying attention and your whole authentic self, you'll notice that this stuff occurs all the time. So, yeah, just the scientific way to describe the things that, when I say them, probably sounds like I'm crazy. Well, then if I'm crazy, then Carl Jung, the most respected psychologist of all time, was crazy. Plato was crazy. Like, a bunch of other brilliant people throughout history were crazy. They all talk about this stuff and recognize it. It's just the people in power do everything they can to make the common folk not understand, and they just say, oh, he's just a genius, he's a brilliant mind. Yeah, they've been smart enough to figure out that they should ask questions. That's the biggest thing. It's like asking the questions, then being open to receiving the answer that the universe will provide to us, then trusting that answer, and then doing it. That's the genius. Literally, of all of these guys that I'm like talking about, that are some of the greatest minds, the genius is that they asked questions, they were curious, and then they followed the path to the answers, to the questions that they were asking. There's an idea that I believe about ideas, funny enough, that ideas literally like will come to somebody as like a gift that the universe will gift somebody because they believe that this person is qualified to take this idea and run with it. It's like, here you go, is a good idea that you can go take and do something you enjoy doing and make it successful. And time after time, we discard these things. Don't pursue it because it's stupid. Other people say it's stupid. It's never going to work. But the universe is saying, no, it's an unbelievable idea. We believe it's an unbelievable idea. Like, you just have to go plant the seed and start watering it. And I promise you, it will grow into the thing that you want. And you can't shake this idea. You talk about it all the time, but you never do it. Then all of a sudden, you see your exact same idea somewhere else, across the world, or just somebody else invented the exact thing that you had the idea for, right? Like almost to a T. This was your idea. How did they steal it, right? Or maybe they didn't steal it. Maybe that's the universe saying, all right, well, if you're not going to take this idea that we gave you and make it the thing that we're telling you to make it, we'll give it to somebody else who will. That's why you see like the same exact plot for a movie come out at the same exact time. Maybe one of them just was holding on to that idea a little bit longer, and the other one ran with it immediately when they got it. And they just happened to meet at the same time. Like, it's the collective unconscious. These ideas come from the thing, like we all can tap into the same things. So anyway, Carl Jung said about the archetypes. So basically, like in the anima and animus, like the archetypes that he describes in there were shaped by early childhood relationships, early childhood experiences, relationships with parents, and cultural influences. So he's basically calling that, not calling it trauma, but that's basically trauma. But he doesn't even go into the idea of generational trauma and having how these things literally get ingrained into our DNA. That just being born into a certain bloodline and stuff, like we have things in our DNA that are already have us programmed a certain way. And then we get the conditioning. Like there can be layers and layers going back generations of things that we need to work through for the whole entire, like everybody that comes after us, which is part with like why I do this as well for my daughter, so that I can break those curses that basically have been attached to one generation after the next of codependency and the negative thinking that they got because of, you know, the Great Depression, let's say. You know, if your parents were like really worried about money, then you might have like a scarcity mindset as opposed to one that is like abundant. And if you never fix that, 100 years later, everybody in the family could still view money and abundance in a way like that. It's always going to be the next Great Depression. That's basically the trauma for something like that. Is we can't spend money on this. It's so expensive. If you spend money and believe that you can make it at any time, you just have to believe you'll be okay. It will work out. You can figure it out. You just got to focus your energy on it, stay positive about it. But for 100 years, it was worry, anxiety, negativity about that thing. So it's reshaping our own thought processes of how we view things, including the reality of the world. So basically, the collective is unhealed, which isn't good. We need the collective unconscious to become healed. So let me do a couple quotes before I end with the thing I want to end with. So here's some of Carl Jung's quotes. Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. He who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes. Basically, he's saying if you awake, you can make anything your reality. We only dream. Like in theory, like dream is like something that isn't real. He's saying if you awake, you realize that it can become real. Anything can become real. It's not a dream. It can be reality. Knowing your own darkness is the best method of dealing with the darkness of other people. Couldn't agree more. In all chaos, there is a cosmos. In all disorder, a secret order. So this is probably the quote that is most... He has one about astrology too, but this one is like him dancing a little bit into saying that, like, yeah, there's way more to all of this. The cosmos, like, this is... I don't know, I just get a sense that he's not really, like, saying that one for the psychology people. Like, he understands, is what he's basically saying. When things seem chaotic and there's no order to it, there is always the secret order. Which is, like what I was saying, when the veil comes down and the illusion breaks, it's not mayhem, it's not disorder, like, it's the secret order that needs to be restored. So I think he was hinting at that. It all depends on how we look at things and not how they are in themselves. Same kind of thing. You just realize it's literally just about your mindset. The healthy man does not torture others. Generally, it is the tortured who turn into the torturers. So to me, that's like basically him describing generational trauma. Like the torture passed down. Whereas if you heal yourself and are healthy, you stop that. You break the chain. And your child doesn't have to feel the same thing that you did. We are born at a given moment, in a given place, and like vintage years of wine, we have the qualities of the year and the season of which we were born. Astrology does not lay claim to anything more. So, yeah, I think he's kind of saying that he understands the way things work, and that astrology does matter. We can use astrology to learn a lot about us, but that there's still free will. Like, I didn't have to, like, I've gotten further in this lifetime than I have in others. I know that. I've done things that probably weren't expected of me. There's always free will. My life could look very different right now. Just because it was written in the stars one way doesn't mean that's the way it's going to play out. But that's like talk about like idealistic thinking. That's the ideal scenario of how your life plays out, that you fulfill your destiny. And there's going to be people trying to stop you from doing that. And you can stop yourself if you are interested in doing it. This is kind of the way how. I assure you, what you're capable of is far greater than you actually believe. So, to end it, I wanted to leave the last thing was he's the one who came up with introversion and extroversion. I'm going to do personality types at one point, which there's some confusion about extroversion and introversion and extroverted and introverted. They're not the same thing, but I want to talk about his version of it because it's actually relevant to what we're going to talk about tomorrow. So, introversion, the focus is on internal thoughts, feelings, and experiences. Extroversion focus external world, interactions, and social experiences. So just think introversion. You could, if we were going to assign it, it would be like much more 5D based. Extroversion much more 3D based in the world like we know as of now. Introversion, energy, recharged by solitary activities and introspection. Extroversion, recharged by social interaction and activity. So in one of my posts today, I had talked about the hammock at Sarah's house, how I would lay there and it felt like a charger, that I would literally plugged into a charger and it was charging myself. So as an introvert who goes inward and feels the feelings and does that, like, we charge our own batteries. So extroverts charge when they're around other people in social situations. Keep that in your back pocket for a second. Introversion. Characteristics: shy, reserved, contemplative, and thoughtful. I mean, thoughtful is a pretty great quality. Contemplative means you actually care and spend time. And then shy and reserved. Okay. Extroversion characteristics: outgoing, social activities, and responsiveness to others. Like, they're the people, the life of the party, always out, always on the move, always never by themselves. All right. Introversion, decision making, careful consideration and balancing factors before reaching conclusions. Again, sounds like very healthy way to do things. So extroversion, decision making tends to make quick decisions based on intuition. Now, I actually disagree with this assessment that it's intuition. I believe that that's impulsive, that it's an impulse, that it's not intuition at all. Because the whole point of intuition and getting to the point where you can trust your intuition is that you spend time going inward and being contemplative and thinking about things. So if you're extroverted and you're always out and about and with people, like, that's like a trickster energy. That's an impulse that makes you believe. It's a shadow figure that makes you believe that it's your intuition, but it in fact is not. I mean, I guess it could be in certain scenarios, but overall, I would imagine that it probably is more an impulse than an intuitive nudge. Okay, so introversion, social situations, may struggle seeking time alone to recharge. Yeah, so they may struggle, like introverts, they struggle when they're in social situations and like want to go home to recharge. And then obviously extroversion, social, they're out and about enjoying themselves. Now, Think about that. For any introverts out there, you know the feeling of going into a group, into a crowd, and then just feeling like you're being drained. It's just too much. Your battery's getting run down, right? So you go home, you have the capability of recharging it. It's where you feel good, right? You need some time to think, you need to go inward, you need to allow yourself to recharge your battery. Extroverts are spending their entire life running from doing this very thing. They can't recharge their own battery. They refuse to be alone because that drains them, because they're forced to think about these things. So they avoid being by themselves and they go out. They get fed energy. They steal the energy, because there's only, energy is energy. They can't create it themselves. They take it from the introverts that surround them. So when you're with, like in my case, an entire group of, there was a lot of them, always with the social plans and activities, that was part of the big argument, is I don't want to do this. I need time to just chill and relax, and my battery is drained. I am running on almost 0% here. I need to recharge my energy. They cause a fight because they need to go out, and that's what makes them feel good. That's how they get their energy. And it has the inverse effect on us. So when I talk about protecting your energy, what I'm talking about is making sure that you're not letting people drain you. If it doesn't feel, if you're not feeling it yourself, if you can't handle it, it's okay to stick up for yourself. Say, I don't want to do this thing. I don't want to go to this event where you know yourself. That's your intuition. That's saying I know how this is going to end. I've done this before. I'm surrounded by a bunch of people who are literally stealing my life force from me right now. That's what it feels like for an introvert. If a bunch of extroverts are all together without the introverts, they literally have a finite amount of energy. If they have introverts who are in that group, they can have infinite amounts of energy, because we can continue to recharge until they drain us for good. But yeah, that's energy manipulation, that's energy harvesting, that's real things that are going on that Carl Jung recognized in how we actually get our own energy. So the people that are going to be so opposed to the things that I'm saying are all of the extroverts who are terrified to face their own demons and go inward and be by themselves where they have to drain their batteries to actually improve themselves. But at the end of the day, aren't these the people running the world? The ones who run political campaigns and are out at the rallies and doing all the things like. So to me, it's just, I don't know. I don't see how a lot of them we can be so confident that they've healed themselves if they have that personality, if that's within them to always be on the move and on the go. To me, that's sign number one, how you can tell if somebody might not be the best for you. If somebody is just always on the go and nonstop and never spends any time with themselves, that's a huge red flag to me. That's somebody who's going to drain my energy, and ultimately it's just not a good match. Like, I'm not saying to just be a hermit and isolate all the time. I'm simply saying you got to protect your energy and be selective with it, and not let people in your life who are trying to fill up their own batteries, like, don't let them do it on your personal energy that you've spent time recharging yourself, doing the actual thinking and the things that it actually takes to, like, make good decisions, and time to spend on yourself. Like, these people aren't spending the time on themselves. So what makes us think that they're spending any time on thinking about the well-being of us? That doesn't make any sense to me. But anyway, I wanted to end on that note on energy, because tomorrow I will dive into the genius, brilliant mind of Nikola Tesla. For those unfamiliar, I want to specifically talk about energy and how I believe he was able to manipulate it and was trying to use it for the common good of society, free energy that would be able to sustain itself. But, you know, one of those people that we should have never trusted, and all his friends and people in power who profited made sure that that didn't happen, and basically harass Tesla for his whole life. Then many suspect murdered him, and later just took his ideas and profited from them. So stuff's all made up, though. Conspiracy theories all the time, right? I don't know if anybody's checked the scoreboard on, like, certain conspiracy theories, but it's kind of hard to call things. One, a conspiracy is when there's multiple people who conspire to do something. That's absolutely happening. So I have more of a problem with theories at this point. I think we should be calling them truths, because there's a lot of conspiring going on everybody kind of knows it. Like, everybody gets those little intuitive nudges that, like, it doesn't actually feel right. Like, something more is going on there, right? But then you don't allow yourself to go there or believe it because you don't want to be tinfoil hat guy. But it's just throughout time, we have proof, factual proof that these things occurred. We haven't healed as a society, so the collective unconscious is still just as messed up as ever. But we're naive to think that, oh, this can't still be occurring now. Well, if the collective unconscious hasn't changed or healed or even gotten worse, I would theorize that we absolutely are doing the same things. And if it's gotten worse, which I would say it has, I would say we're doing worse things. That seems like a pretty logical, systematic approach to get to that conclusion for me. So, once again, I just say, let's start asking questions, start suspending judgment for a little bit when people say certain things, and stop making everybody immediately be the one that you discredit because it happens to just not be the thing you thought that you agreed with. The only reason you agreed with it is because that's what everybody else was saying, and you didn't want to be the one who stands alone. Believe me, I know a thing or two about being the one who stands alone. I know that not many other people are willing to do it. So, independent thought, asking questions, not having bias when you go into things, forming your own opinions and judgments, and that's what's intended. And in order to do those things, you kind of have to do them yourself, which is full circle the point. So, yeah, excited to dive into Tesla tomorrow, and I already have a pretty good idea of the posts for tomorrow that I want to do. Like I said, this is still very early in the web. If there's anybody who's out there who's opposed to me and they're thinking just a matter of time before he burns out or loses things to talk about, you have no idea. You have absolutely no idea how long I can do this for. So, I'm going to bet on myself. You can bet on the other side, like always. It's nothing new. I'm used to being bet against. But somehow I'm still here, right? Better than ever. Seeing things clearly. Doing the exact thing that you've been trying to stop me from doing for a long time now. So, maybe it's time to stop gambling. With that, I will call it a video. Hope that you guys enjoyed it and keep coming back. If there's anybody who I'm not friends with on Facebook or anything, I don't know. I'm just doing my thing. I'm not trying to get viewers or anything, but I'm not opposed to it either. So if there's anybody who you think might like what I'm talking about, feel free to share it. But like I said, the universe will work it out. I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing right now and just waiting. So, all right, well, I love you all. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow, and hope everybody has a great day.